All right. Well, let's, since we're talking about odious people, what do you do if you can't rerun for mayor because you participated in, you've crapped all over your citizenry in many respects. You have participated, possibly. People seem to think he did. I don't know how he couldn't have, but it's possible, I guess, that he was completely hoodwinked by everything that went down with the Laquan McDonald case. And if you were the guy who said, F the left, let's destroy all the outside agitation during the Obama administration. If you were the weak-kneed guy in the Obama administration, right? Like if they look around the room, they're like, who's the first guy to retreat from taking any advantage of the destruction that George W. Bush left in his wake? The first guy to retreat, it was this beautifully tanned and coiffed jackass.
The risk you said, which is appropriate and it measures up, is
I should tell people, because that's probably not in his official title. Rahm Emanuel, folks. Here he is.
Healthcare is a single issue that Democrats have a 35-point advantage on. President Trump is trying to do everything he can to narrow that down. We've taken a position so far, and the candidates have, through the process, a few have not, on basically Medicare for All, which is we're going to eliminate 150 million people's health care, and we're going to provide health care for people that just come over the border. That is an untenable position for the general election. As you know, George, I just biked around Lake Michigan, nearly 1,000 miles, through Michigan and Wisconsin, two really important states. Nobody at a diner ran at me and said, take my health care away. Nobody. This is reckless as it relates to, and you don't have to take the position to win the primary.
I wonder how many people ran up to him at a diner and just said, hey, you're an a-hole.
Or had no idea who the hell he was, if they were lucky.
Right.
Position to win the primary, and you're basically literally hindering yourself for the general election.
But to the governor's point, I mean, there is a question about whether this comes down to electability and this return to stability that Biden is running on, or whether voters want someone like Warren who's going to shake up the whole system. And when you look at our poll, particularly, it shows that there is this boost for Biden because of the electability argument.
Yeah, first of all, there's so much with that exchange that is just sort of stunning. Now, of course, when Chris Christie is, when Rahm Emanuel is supposedly bringing up the left here on this panel, this is the conversation that you're going to get. It is impossible to find in this country, in our history, an example of a presidential candidate who came out with a proposal that was in any way unpopular and wrote it to the White House. You cannot find it in history except for the last presidential election, where just about every proposal that Donald Trump offered had a net negative perspective with polling. So just that frame itself is just absurd. And again, and this is going to be the theme that we're going to hear about, or you're going to hear about, because I'm going to keep talking about it for the next 12 months. The model that these old idiots are using, this idea that there are people out there, voters, who lean Democrat and lean Republican, and sometimes they vote Republican and sometimes they vote Democrat. That model is done. Surely you can find those people. There are some of them. But this is all about return on investment and opportunity cost. Those two dynamics. The data shows that in purple districts in 2018, where people ran towards the center as a Democrat, they lost. And the reason is because Republicans are getting record-breaking turnout. And so Democrats need to have record-breaking turnout. The way to get record-breaking Democratic turnout is not to cut against polarization, but to not worry about polarization, and provide things that animate Democratic voters and lean Democratic voters. There are not voters staying home saying, I think these policies are too far to the left, at least on the Democratic side. They're just saying, does this impact me enough? And that could be material and it can be an emotional impact. But they are predisposed to everything that the Democratic base is predisposed to. They just need to know that it's actually going to impact them. It needs to impact them in some way. So when you talk about immigration, how much does it motivate the people there? We know from data that the question of immigration in the wake of the Donald Trump election, the left is far more energized by it than they were during the Obama administration. Without a doubt, it became an issue in many ways in the same way that what happened with right-wing voters, where everything became racialized. So too for the left. It's just that they now support these things in a more polarized fashion. You want to bring more people out, you hammer those things. You're not going to depress your turnout by supporting things that marginal voters don't necessarily want. They're just waiting for things that are going to push them out, that are going to motivate them to get up. And electability and shaking things up are not diametrically opposed. These are not opposites. You have to go all the way back to 2016 to see that they're not diametrically opposite. Because it turns out that the guy who was promising to shake things up won.
Incidentally, it's obviously a self-selected audience, but the greatest applause line we had after celebrating David Koch's death at our live show in Chicago was definitely roasting Rahm Emanuel.
Yes.
People, and a lot of folks in Chicago beyond that room, if you look at polls,
right,
really hate him.
Right. And which is why he is up there representing Democrats on ABC television. I mean, it's sort of fascinating. I mean, it's like sort of the Claire McCaskill.
It's the same. It's precisely the same
exact
thing.
dynamic.
30% with the voters of Chicago, 80% with ABC brass.
Right. There it is. And we could probably spend 6 months trying to delve into what creates that dynamic, but that's just the reality.